Hello world. So shortly after I put up the introductory video, I decided I might as well just throw caution to the wind, sit in front of the camera and just discuss a couple of the things that I've been enjoying in the past few days, week, whatever it may be. While I've been stuck inside, I've, had a lot of time to go back through my extensive collection of records and books and movies and really delve in and devote some time to rewatching some favorites, re-listening and experiencing some new things. And I just want to real quickly talk about those. This is all non-scripted, so excuse the production values here. You have to wait a while until I can become more pretentious and put some more thought into this. For now, this is how we look. So, let's start off with some records that I've been listening to in the past couple days. The first one, let's start with this here. This is a record called Skeleton by Aesop Rock. Aesop Rock is a brilliant independent rapper out of New York. In the 90s, he was with Definitive Jux LP, and that whole group that ran out of New York. He's in the Pacific Northwest somewhere now, and he's crazy. He made this record while he was kind of self-quarantining himself years and years and years ago. What year did this come out? 2012 for Skeleton. Kind of went and lived on a farm in a barn. This is one of the records that he produced himself. This is very interesting hip-hop, especially for people that might not necessarily be into hip-hop. It is very raw, almost punk, industrial sounding. A lot of the beats have a lot of distortion on them. The subject matter is very dark, as you can tell by some of the artwork on the inside here. It's a pretty dark album, but one of the things that I like about Aesop Rock is that even though something like this, where there's a lot of dark themes that he goes through and talks about, he always has a sense of humor too. He's got some hilarious songs on here. So, for instance, my favorite song on the album is probably the opening track, Leisure Force, which is the first song of his that I was ever able to rap on my own along with him. I learned all the lyrics and got his flow down, and it was a great accomplishment. So give me some accolades, please. But again, there's a lot of really interesting stuff on here that goes back and forth between different attitudes and moods. There's stuff like Racing Stripes, for instance, which is about giving yourself shitty haircuts. There's as I have recently done. There is a song on here about eating your vegetables when you're a kid, Grace. It's really funny. And then there's stuff like Zero Dark 30, which is kind of it's kind of a braggadocio type of rap where he's kind of talking about all these young up and coming rappers with no real talent that think they're the shit. Just really, really good stuff on here. I love this album. I love Aesop Rock. He can really do no wrong in my mind. The most recent stuff he's been putting out a lot of singles, but he did a collaborative album with Tobacco. If anybody knows who Tobacco is out there, it's a very strange sort of lo-fi electronic band. He and the guy from Tobacco collaborated on an album called Malibu Kin, which was fucking brilliant. So Aesop is a hell of a guy, hell of a rapper. I really recommend you check out Skeleton because it fucking bangs. The next one, so one of the albums I've been listening to a lot is a new Nine Inch Nails release. They put out an album a couple of years ago called Ghosts, which was a collection of instrumental improvisational pieces that a lot of collaboration was done on. Traditionally in the past, Nine Inch Nails has usually been just Trent Reznor doing all of the composition and writing and things like that. Recently, Atticus Ross, his partner, who he does all of the film scores with, like Social Network and Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Watchmen, which just recently came out, which was fantastic as well. Recently, Atticus Ross joined the band as an official member, so now Nine Inch Nails is technically 2 people. But they did put out another version of Ghosts during the quarantine, and it is really good. And it made me go back and start listening to the original Ghosts, and then I got kind of lost in the shuffle of Nine Inch Nails there for a while. But one of my favorite albums of theirs, that's hard to say because I like most of their albums quite a bit, is Year Zero. And this is an album that was very strange for Nine Inch Nails to put out for many reasons. At the time they put this out, traditionally, most of the albums that they had ever done were very labored over studio productions that took a very long time, were very intricate. This is an album that he made essentially on his laptop while they were on tour. So a lot of aggression here. It's a concept album, which also makes it unique because Nine Inch Nails albums had also traditionally been very personal in nature. A lot of the lyrics, subject matter, things like that. This is about a near future with a fascist government who has destroyed the planet, has their boot on the throat of the populace, rules with fear and money and God and all those sorts of great concepts that everybody loves to tread over again and again. But it's interesting, and it doesn't sound like any of the other Nine Inch Nails album. It's very electronic and very glitchy. A lot of almost drill and bass industrial type stuff, harboring on some of the more extreme Square Pusher, Aphex Twin sorts of tracks, like what is it? The Great Destroyer. That's a great one. Really great album. Very fun, very fun. It hasn't been re-released on vinyl. This is an original pressing, but it's available on CD and on all these streaming platforms, of course. Year Zero, fantastic. Listen to it if you haven't already, but why the hell wouldn't you have? And then let's do one more. We'll do 3 of each here. So the next one, there's kind of a theme going with all these albums. So Tom Waits' Blood Money. The theme, I guess, would be this sort of dark cynicism, anger. There's a lot going on right now to be upset about, I guess. But Blood Money is an album of Tom Waits. Tom Waits is a brilliant writer and musician and actor. When I was growing up, my dad was a huge Tom Waits fan. So this guy was the soundtrack of parts of my childhood, believe it or not. So this voice has stuck with me forever. He has a very distinct gravelly voice. It's been said that he sounds like somebody who's gargled with broken glass or rusty razor blades or whatever. This album is fun. There's a lot of, it's kind of angry jazz, almost angry Tom Waits surrealism, as he once called it, surreal. A lot of stuff like misanthropic, tongue-in-cheek lyrics that are fun. Misery is the river of the world. Everything goes to hell. God's away on business. I mean, just great stuff here. Tom is a genius. We should all bow at the altar any chance we get. And Blood Money is a great place to start. It's not traditional Tom Waits. It does get a little crazy and a little intense even for Tom Waits standards, but absolutely brilliant record that everybody should listen to. So let's talk about movies. Here's a couple movies I've watched, pardon me, just in the last few days here. I mentioned Bunuel, Louis Bunuel, in my intro videos, name dropping him as one of the directors I like. To be honest, Bunuel is probably my favorite film director of all time. I'm very familiar with his work. I wrote papers on him in college. I own pretty much every movie he's ever made and seen literally every film he's ever made. Own every book that's been written on him. His memoir, My Last Sigh, which is brilliant. An Unspeakable Betrayal is another book that was put out. It's a compilation of a lot of his different writings. Bunuel is an artist of the highest order. He was a surrealist until the day he died, in the truest sense of the word. political revolutionary, not just somebody who liked weird nonsense for the sake of it being weird and nonsensical. Vera Diana is one of my favorite films of his. Um, this is a very, very special film in Boone Welles' canon. He was born in Spain. This movie was 1961. He was born in Spain, and he had to leave Spain when the fascists took over during the Spanish Civil War. He was considered, a non-essential part of the fascist regime there because he made subversive art, and he probably would have been thrown in jail had he stayed. Vera Diana is special because after he had left Spain, he lived in France for a while. He became a Mexican citizen. This was the first film that he made when he came back to Spain after many, many years of living in exile. And famously, it was extremely scandalous. It's a very, very dark satire about the hypocrisy and the ridiculousness of the Catholic Church. The titular character, Vera Diana, is a nun who is in the convent about to take her final vows to become a nun, I guess, so she's not a nun yet, and is informed that her uncle wants to see her to say goodbye to her before she becomes a nun and is locked away from the world forever in a convent. She goes to see the uncle, and he's a lecherous old freak whose dead wife just happens to look very, very much like Sylvia Pinal, who plays Vera Diana. He proceeds to hatch a plan to have her dress in his dead wife's wedding dress and drug her and rape her. He doesn't go through with it at the last minute, but she thinks that he did. He ends up committing suicide. I don't really want to spoil it for you. I feel I'm giving too much away. It's a brilliant film. You need to watch it. It's actually on, if you have the Criterion Channel streaming platform, a lot of the Boone Welles films are on there right now, and I would suggest that you go on and watch any of them. Any of them you're going to have a good time with. But again, Vera Diana is one of my favorites. This scene right here that they're showing at the bottom kind of comes at the at the apex of the film, and it's a recreation of the Last Supper, of course, full of paupers and beggars and degenerates. Interesting story about how this happens, but I'll let you watch the film and see it yourself. It's in Spanish, so you're going to have to read subtitles, but brilliant film. It actually won the Palme d'Or in Cannes that year, 1961. So highly recommended. Go check it out. And then moving on, here's a movie that I saw for the first time this week. I've known about it for years and years and years, and I bought it a long time ago, and it has sat in shrink wrap for a long time, and I just recently opened it, watched it, and was blown away. So, Inserts. This film was put out in 1975, written and directed by John Byram, who I'm not really sure what else he did. I remember looking him up after I watched it, and he made a few other small films, but nothing really of import or note. This film has Richard Dreyfuss as the main character. All the characters have kind of playful non-names in this film. Veronica Cartwright, who a lot of people might remember as one of the original crew members in the first Alien movie, short blonde hair. She's fearless in the role that she plays in this movie. She plays a flapper porn star who used to be in silent films, has a voice like nails on a chalkboard, couldn't get into talkies, so she now makes porn films with Richard Dreyfuss. Very, very dark, very, very dark, but full of great performances. Bob Hoskins plays a gangster in this who's funding Richard Dreyfuss's porn films. It all takes place in Richard Dreyfuss's house in Hollywood. It's almost shot in real time, if I remember correctly. I don't really think there's any cuts or time jumps. So it takes place basically in one afternoon at his house, where a couple very strange and bad things happen. People come in and out. It's shot very much like a stage play, so um, not a lot of movement with the camera, not a lot of inserts, not a lot of pickup shots, things like that. Shot very much like a play. Riveting performances from Dreyfuss, from Nancy Cartwright, and from Jessica Harper, young Jessica Harper, who a lot of people know from Suspiria, Stardust Memories, Phantom of the Paradise, a great movie. Jessica Harper's in this. She's fantastic. Everybody is great. Very dark. Kind of hard to find. I think this is out of print. I don't know if you can see that. Twilight Time put this out, which is kind of a boutique Blu-ray label. And I believe this one is out of print. Like I said, I bought this a long time ago, and I've just been waiting for a chance to watch it. So it might be a little hard to find, but if you can, and you like dark, strange movies that are by turns funny, shocking, and morbidly poetic, I would highly recommend Inserts. And then an old favorite that I watch all the time. I seem to watch this movie constantly. It's been popping up on social media a lot lately. I keep seeing people mention this movie, so it really made me want to watch it again. Possession, Zulawski's Possession. This is a horror film unlike any other horror film you've probably seen. This is a version put out by, who put this at Mondo Video, which is a great little boutique label, puts out a lot of strange horror movies and stuff you can't really find anywhere else. Very nice packaging, big hardcover. Oh, look at this. It's got like you got to pull it out like a old book. Brilliant movie. I'd say it's a dark, almost Lovecraftian, surrealist horror film about the disintegration of a marriage and a demon, mental illness. It's hard to say. It's Zulawski. He made a lot of very strange, sort of surrealistic films. This was put out in 1981. Sam Neill plays the husband, an American actor. And Isabella Adjani plays the wife and gives one of my all-time favorite female horror movie performances, maybe one of my favorite female performances of all time in this film. She's just outstanding. She puts everything she has into this. There's a scene where she kind of freaks out in this subway tunnel and smashes this bottle of milk and rolls around like she's being possessed by a demon. Strange, dark, surreal, great film. You can probably find this most places online to watch, to rent. I don't know if this is in print anymore. I think it's probably out of print, but it's not so hard to see. You can find it. And if you want something really strange, really dark, and really good, Possession. Again, there's a theme going on here where there's a lot of darkness with the music, with the movies. And then the only book I've been reading this week is something that, again, I've had this for a long time, never read it, just found it in a pile and decided to give it a go. I'm about halfway through at this point, and it's pretty good. Jesus Sepulveda, The Garden of Peculiarities. It is a Marxist philosophical text. Let me just read you. There's an excerpt here on the front. This will give you an idea of what the book is about. Sorry about this camera and the lighting and all that. The Garden of Peculiarities. Ideology crystallizes itself like a map in memory. It legitimizes itself by propagating the false idea that the world in which we live is the best possible world, or the system is the best system, regardless of its shortcomings. For this reason, it is common to hear that socialism is better than capitalism, the free market is better than proletarian state, democracy better than fascism, military dictatorship better than communism, republic better than monarchy, feudal bondage better than slavery, city better than community, etc. However many of these arguments are launched, they are all ultimately absurd because they tend to justify repression at the altar of a supposed necessary order. Gives you a nice little idea of what the book's about. Feral House published this, great publisher. They've put out a lot of really great stuff over the years. I got this, of course, at like a half-price books or something, as you can see by that horribly half-ass attempt to peel off the price sticker. Pretty good. Not bad. It's contemporary. He wrote this in the 2000s at some point, 2005. So, not bad. I don't really know anything at all about the man, so I'm going to have to look into him after I finish the book. But it's okay. It's a nice read. Again, very topical for what's going on in the world right now. So, that's it. What else can I say? I think this video has gone on way too long. So I bid you adieu for now. I'm going to start trying to formulate an idea for a more traditional YouTube type video with more production value, so you don't have to just look at me the entire time. If you watched, thank you for watching. Let me know if you like any of these things or any other suggestions you might have. Again, take care of yourselves out there. Have fun. Thanks for watching.